Alright, so you've made the decision to check out Lord of the Rings Online, you're getting ready to start your journey into Middle-earth, and of course, the biggest and toughest decision you have to make is what class are you going to choose to start with? Now, obviously, there's a wide range of classes, and it really does depend on who you are as a gamer, your play styles, what you're looking for. I'm going to lay out 5 classes that I would recommend that you try as a returning player or as a new player to the game entirely. These 5 classes I feel are the best specifically for soloing, and especially when you're trying to learn the game mechanics. However, I'm going to mention 2 classes that I would personally try to avoid at all costs until you're really familiar with the game and you're able to pick up and learn a little quicker. The number 1 class I would try to avoid playing right away as a new player or a returning player would be the Lore-Master. Now personally, the Lore-Master was the first character I ever created in Lord of the Rings Online, and I'm not gonna lie, that was the toughest class to ever choose when you're first starting to learn the game, because they are so squishy when you don't know their skills. Their skills are a lot of damage over time, and they're really squishy because their companion is essentially like your tank. You kind of have to tell your companion to go attack a foe, and then you just kind of sit there and hope that some of your skills are actually doing a little bit of damage, and especially when you're first starting out, it really takes forever to kill something, and all of the heavy hits are coming from your companion, they're not coming from you. So essentially, you're almost like that sideline support character, and it's really not good for soloing like I was doing. Now personally, when I started my Lord of the Rings journey, I chose to play the Lore-Master. I wanted to have a wizard. I'm very against like all the shields and swords, like that's just not my forte. I love doing a lot of like the mage skills and such, and the Lore-Master is essentially that. What the Lore-Master kind of represents the most in comparison to like the movies is Gandalf. So clearly when you log in, you definitely want to be like Gandalf. I mean, he's like the most powerful wizard ever. I chose the Lore-Master, and I'm not gonna lie, that was a really bad decision. They're actually labeled as an advanced class for a reason. Especially when you're really trying to learn the game, you want to get more into it, you want to do some of the combat clearly. I would not recommend the Lore-Master for that reason. It is like a really good support class, and it can do really well when soloing once you kind of level it up more and you know the skills. But if you're going to try to learn this game from the beginning, I would definitely not recommend Lore-Master. The second class I would highly not recommend is a little controversial, but I would try to stay away from the Warden. Now, the Warden actually has a really good reputation within the Twitch Lord of the Rings community with the players that I know. Everybody loves Wardens. It's like their main class. I hear you. And the Warden is actually pretty good because it can sort of switch different roles within itself. So it has your javelin, so you can do a lot of ranged attacks, but then it also has a shield, so it kind of protects you from close combat, and you can do some more close combat sword type of skills as well. However, the skill system with the Warden is definitely unique, and it's not that user-friendly. The Warden has this gambit sort of skill system where you have these 3 basic attacks, and with these 3 skills, if you order them in a certain way, you can have really heavy hitting damage, or it could really give you a nice buff. It could even potentially heal you over time. So it's really neat because you can act like a tank for a little bit when necessary. You could do a little bit of heals for yourself so you're not always dying, and then you can also just do a real good amount of damage. So once you learn it, it's a really great class, but there's a whole system in place of it that's just so not user-friendly. It's really difficult to learn. I never know the skill combinations. The only advice I've ever gotten for learning how the skill combinations work is that someone told me to download a mod, and I'm like, why would I download a mod for a game where this should not be as difficult to learn as it is? Why do we need to even download a mod in order for it to make sense? Like, you have to take a lot of time and a lot of memorization to know the skill combinations. And honestly, I just don't think it's worth it for your first playthrough because none of the other classes are like that at all. That's why I don't recommend it, but like I said, this class can be really great. I know so many people who love it. It's personally not really my cup of tea, but it's definitely an effective class, just not one I would recommend if you're trying to get back into LOTRO or if you're a new time player. So now that we've covered the classes that you shouldn't play, let's talk about the classes you should play. The first class I would recommend you play is the Hunter, and the Hunter is it's really simple. You want to be like Legolas, okay? Let's be honest. This is actually one of the most recommended classes because it has the best skills when it comes down to ranged abilities. And not only that, even the close combat for them is pretty good. So you can essentially kill your enemy before they even touch you. Another really nice thing about this class is that they actually have ports and milestones to different locations within Middle-earth. Most other classes do not have any sort of ports, and none of them even have as close as the amount as you do with a hunter. And then on top of that all, another thing I haven't mentioned is that you also have traps. So you could place down traps, trap down some of your enemies, and then literally they would have no reason to even hit you, because if you delay them with a trap, they're stuck. You can do like a really great like time-consuming skill there, take a massive hit on them, and then just essentially just wipe them out the rest of the way when they're slowly walking up to you. It's one of those basic classes that you just can't go wrong with, and their skills are not hard to learn. I highly recommend the Hunter. They're definitely one of my top classes, and that was actually the second class I made ever for Lord of the Rings. So I went from a Lore-Master to a Hunter, and there was a major difference in my wanting to play the game. The second class I would recommend would be the Guardian, for those who are interested in some of the more sword and shield type of gameplay. Now the Guardian is actually like the #1 tank class within Lord of the Rings. They're one of the classes that really do have good damage, but a lot of their damage is based off of one skill, one hit. The Guardian also has heavy armor too, so it's going to take you a lot longer to die if you get several hits from your enemies, and it's definitely the #1 class that you want to look at when it comes down to like some raiding abilities. But as a solo class, I would recommend it because you're very unlikely to die as a Guardian. Alright, the third class I would recommend that you check out is the Rune-Keeper. The Rune-Keeper is kind of like a mage in itself too. You have these runes. With the runes you can do damage, but then also Rune-Keepers have a really good healing ability, which is why I would recommend it. You can be a little squishy as a Rune-Keeper though, because you only have light armor. However, once you learn the system between the healing skills and how the attacking side looks for the Rune-Keeper, you can honestly fluctuate between the two pretty quickly in comparison to most other classes, and that's sort of why I recommend the Rune-Keeper. The fourth class I would recommend would be the Champion, and this is a dual wielding sword bearing class. They also are like the Guardian in the fact that they have heavy armor. While the Champion does more close combat, there is actually the option to wield a bow when you get to a certain level within the game, so you can do like a really simple hit for a ranged attack and then kind of aggro that enemy to come to you, and then you can sort of hit them with your really heavy hitters. The Guardian also has that ability, which I forgot to mention, so it's something to kind of consider when you're thinking about those classes too. What makes the Champion unique is that they have great area of effect skills. That's sort of different from the Guardian, because the Guardian, they don't have area of effect skills necessarily. It's really focused on just taking out one enemy, and that's why they're sort of slower killers in comparison to other classes. Champion's actually one of my top classes, so I highly recommend it. I've had a lot of champions made in the past, and I've tried out a lot of the different tiers, so this is sort of why I personally recommend Champion. And last but not least, I do recommend the Captain. I mostly put the Captain on here because a lot of the people that I interact with within the LOTRO community, I've seen a lot of new players try out the Captain, and I've heard decent feedback. You have a lot of abilities that can add buffs to your group, especially when it comes to your raids and instances. That's kind of why the Captain is really neat, because not only can they do all of that, they also have a companion who's also like another sword wielding NPC that's kind of by your side all the time. Now they also have their own range of skills that you can utilize to your advantage as well. The skill duration for the Captain is a little longer than most classes, but if you can get past that and utilize your companion, you definitely could do soloing with no problem. I think that's why people really enjoyed the Captain, is because you can kind of fluctuate between being a support character within a raid, or you can even be like another offhand tank. So those are the 5 classes I would highly recommend you check out, and I did mention 2 classes that I would try to avoid, but there are several other classes that I didn't even mention within this video. So if you want to check out more of those, I would definitely keep an eye out on the LOTRO playlist that I have linked down below. Not only that, but you might have gotten through this video like, I still don't know if I should play Lord of the Rings online, okay? Like, you know, know, like, do I really want to add another MMO to my list, you know? Well, I have a solution for you. I definitely recommend checking out my latest video about why you should be playing Lord of the Rings right now. It's not me being biased as heck. No way. I was not biased in the video at all. I will say though, I might have been just a teensy bit biased when I said that. Give it a shot, but if you need more convincing, check out the LOTRO video where I explain some reasons why you should be playing it right now. Until next time, weirdos, stay weird as always, and I'll see you in the next video.